Alright, it's time to start preparing for the new Legendary Armor. Contrary to previous sets, you won't need to engage in any competitive game mode this time around. You can obtain a set by simply playing the new secrets of the Obscure expansion. And because the new Legendary set won't be released until the second quarterly update, we have enough time to prepare and make acquiring a set as cheap and painless as possible. If you've never crafted any Legendary item yourself, it's easy to get overwhelmed by the list of requirements. And with this guide, I want to make you less whelmed. So instead of simply reading off each component from the list on the wiki, I'll break it down to how to actually obtain them as efficiently as possible. I hope that by the end of this video, you'll see that obtaining a full set is less scary than it might appear at first glance. Let's first break the armor up into 4 gifts though, as I have 2 very important remarks. Gift of Might and Magic Prosperity are material sinks, and the Gift of Expertise will be mostly gated by farming account-bound stuff. Now, for the Gift of Stormy Skies, you'll need to explore the Skywatch Archipelago and Amnytas, which won't take too long. And here's my first note. There is still a yet undiscovered gift, which will most likely require you to completely explore the final map released with the next update around November. The final of the 4 components of the Legendary Armor is Arcanum of Astral Armor. Each will cost you a lesser vision crystal, so for a full set of armor you'll need 6. Before Lear wants to sell these to you, you'll need to complete a collection per slot though. And currently we already know that you need to unlock the Rift Hunter armor and the Astral Ward armor. The former is unlocked by simply playing the story, or if you really don't want to, through World v World and PvP reward tracks, while the latter is another material sink. And here's my second note. There will be 2 more things to unlock with the next updates before we can purchase the Arcanum. This will most likely involve a 3rd set. Now something you will want to know is that you need to only buy a single weight per slot, and the other 2 weights will be unlocked as well. So let's say you buy the heavy Astral Ward gloves, you'll also get the medium and the light ones unlocked straight away, which will significantly reduce your time spent farming. I ended with the Astral Ward armor because this is a great example of why legendary items take a while to unlock. You think you're farming for components for the first gifts, and by the time you reach the last, you discover there's another grocery list of things to take care of if you were simply following the wiki. Let's dive into the actual materials now and start with what might be the scariest of the bunch, Mystic Clovers, but I'm gonna change this for you. Normally, you can gamble for these in the Mystic Forge or buy them from different vendors for raid, fractal and strike currencies. Another way of purchasing these has been recently added to the game, where you need to spend 3 Mystic Coins, 3 Obsidian Shards, 3 Spirit Shards and 5 globs of Ectoplasm for a single Mystic Clover. What I'm about to say might seem counterintuitive, but gambling for them in the Forge is the better deal. The Mystic Forge has a roughly 31% chance to reward you with a Clover for a single one of each of the components. And if you don't get a Clover, you still get rewarded with random tier 6 materials, Mystic Coins or Crystals. So even if the Forge doesn't give you your Clover, you'll be spending nearly the same as the last vendor I mentioned, but you'll get something in return for the failed attempts. But I want to recommend a method that won't cost a thing. In fact, you'll be making money. In total you need 9 Clovers per slot, so 54 for a full set, as well as 1 Clover for each of the Astral Ward armor unlocks. So that means the first full legendary set you need 60 Clovers, and each subsequent set will set you back 54 Clovers. With the new Wizard's Vault, you can purchase up to 20 Clovers for Astral Acclaim, and ArenaNet will refresh the vault with each quarterly update. So there is a very real chance we can buy another 20 Clovers in November and another 20 in February. This will actually net us a grand total of 60 Clovers for 0 gold spent. In fact, you'll have gained the gold from the daily achievements. So you could basically scratch this off your to-do list already by simply playing the game and making sure you do your dailies, weeklies and quarterlies. Let's continue with some other easy to take care of items, and let's start with Spirit Shards. You'll need an Eldritch Scroll which costs 50 Spirit Shards per slot, so that means 300 shards for a full set. Again, if you play the game regularly, by the time the armor releases, this will mostly be taken care of. You'll need another 120 Spirit Shards for the 6 lesser Vision Crystals for the Astral Ward armor unlocks, as each of them requires an Augur Stone which costs 20 shards each at the Forge Attendant. I recently released a guide on what I consider the most helpful item in the game to acquire buffs, which hopefully will become available with the next Halloween update. I'll put a link to the video in the pinned comment, as this might help you speeding up the leveling process. The other components for the lesser Vision Crystals will take care of themselves as well. You'll need 2 bloodstone bricks, 2 imperial stars and 2 dragonite ingots per crystal. These can be crafted from tier 7 materials that you will obtain from doing events, opening bags and chests. I doubt you'll have to actively farm these, as most people have these in excess and delete them, but if you notice you're lacking one of the components, you can simply farm Living World Season 3 and 4 nodes, as these are a byproduct of gathering those. There are other ways to obtain lesser vision crystals, such as salvaging ascended gear, some of the daily gizmos and so on, but crafting will be the most consistent way and doesn't cost you a thing. Another easy to obtain component, especially by the time the armor releases, are gifts of craftsmanship. Each of them costs you 50 provisioner tokens, so you'll want 300 tokens per armor set. I previously released a video on how to obtain 10 of these per day in the most cost-effective way. People have asked me to update the video with the new SotO vendors, but I won't have to. The new vendors' prices are so excessive, it isn't even worth bothering with them. If you follow my video instead, every 30 days you will get 300 tokens. So you can even acquire 900 tokens for all 3 sets way before you can actually buy the legendary armor. Another very easy ingredient are Obsidian Shards. You want to buy these from the vendor near the Cathedral of Victoria's Glory waypoint in the Straits of Devastation. Sometimes this vendor is locked by a meta event, but you can either help take care of the meta or check back at a later time. I'm gonna skip over the materials sync for a moment and discuss the gifts of research first. You'll need to buy 250 thermocatalytic reagents from a vendor, which will cost you 3 gold and 70 silver in total. So for all 6 armor pieces, this will cost you 22 gold and 20 silver. There is no way around this, as you can only buy these from the crafting vendors. But if you do the dailies I mentioned for the Mystic Clovers, you can buy a stack per month and have gold left over. So once more, within 3 months, you'll have acquired more than enough gold through doing your 4 dailies and not make a dent in your wallet. The 500 hydrocatalytic reagents are a bit of a pain, as these will require 2500 research nodes. And while I'm at it, I'll make things a bit worse before I make them better. You also need 500 research nodes per Astral Ward armor slot. That means for your first full set, you will need 18,000 nodes. 15,000 for the hydrocatalytic reagents for all 6 pieces, and 3,000 for the Astral Ward armor unlocks. I recently released a guide on how to acquire research nodes either fast or cheap, or by striking a compromise between both. So I'll put that in the comments. The video is only about 5 minutes long and you'll see that it isn't as bad as it might seem right now. The final ingredient is 250 exotic essences of luck, or 1500 for a full set, which you will gain simply from salvaging items. If I were you, I wouldn't worry at all about these, as you'll more than likely have more than enough by the time you can get the armor. And you can actually pick up the Artificer craft and upgrade the lower tiers of luck into exotic essences if you want to. You won't even need to level up artificing at all, as it's a level 1 recipe. And with that, we have the gift of research out of the way, which is the most annoying one to obtain in my opinion. Now let's talk about the parts that won't take care of themselves, but require some farming. The good news is that by watching this guide, you'll know exactly what to do. Let's start with the cases of captured lightning and pouches of stardust. You'll need 5 of each for each single piece of armor, as well as 6 of each extra to unlock the Astral Ward armor set we discussed earlier. You can buy these for 250 of the map currency, but that would not be efficient at all. Instead, you can get these as a reward from the chest obtained through daily completion of the meta in Skywatch Archipelago or in Amnytas. So if you consistently do the meta in both of these maps, you will not have to spend any more than you have to, and you'll get some other rewards on top as well. Now make sure you also save 250 of these static charges and pinches of stardust for the gift of stormy skies, but you'll passively gain these as well by simply doing the meta or running around the map. If you've never done fractals, the next one might scare you, but I want to change that. I'm talking about the cubes of stabilized dark energy. Each cube requires a ball of dark energy, which you can get from salvaging ascended items, and 75 stabilizing matrices. You can buy these on the trading post, or they can also come from fractal reward chests and salvaging ascended gear once more. If you're new to fractals, this is actually a really great time to dip your toes in. You don't require any specific gear for anything level 19 and below, and you can get up to 21 by simply buying a consumable called the Tear of Alba. So what I'd recommend is to just go for a few of the dailies and recommended fractals in the tier you're confident in. If you list in the LFG that you're new, or instead you look for a group where anyone is welcome, you'll more than likely find like-minded people or people who simply like helping others out. This might come as a surprise, but this only leaves us with 2 big farms. The first is tier 1, 2 and 3 essences from completing rifts. You'll need 12 Amalgamated Kryptis essences per slot, as one more for each of the Astral Ward armor sets the first time around. You'll also need a little extra of the tier 1 essences for the Gift of Stormy Skies as well, but that's only 250 essences extra. So for your first set of gear, and remember, the second and third sets will be slightly cheaper because you don't need to unlock the Astral Ward armor again. You'll need 3750 essences of despair, 1400 greed and 700 triumph. This might seem like a lot, but there's actually quite a few tips and tricks you can implement here. First of all, I made a video on how to get more essences per rift that I'll link in the pinned comment once more. In short, you'll want to unlock the 4th Astral Ward Mastery and use common Kryptis motivations to farm the tier 1 essences. There's another trick that will passively reward you with essences though. Every week there are 5 rifts that you can hunt down in the 5 different active maps, and each will reward you with Kryptis rift extractions. These chests contain random amounts of tier 1, 2 and 3 essences. So by farming 25 rifts, 5 in each map per week, you will get a bunch of extra essences for no extra effort. And if 25 rifts sounds like a lot, simply divide it up into 5 rifts per day. That's around 10 minutes of work per day and you're done. And that brings me to the final set of materials, which can either be farmed, obtained passively, or be bought straight from the trading post. Let's start with globs of Ectoplasm. I think there is a mistake on the wiki by the way, because one Amalgamated essence costs 60 globs of Ectoplasm and they list that 12 will require 600 instead of 720. I'll stick to the vendor values, assuming the wiki will be updated eventually. And we're also gonna need 60 extra globs of Ectoplasm for the Astral Ward armor unlocks once more for the first set. So in total you need 780 Ectos per piece. And this seems like a lot, I know, especially if you need to buy them. But let's be smart about this. You've got about 6 months of time before the armor even becomes available. So if you correctly salvage your unidentified gear and you refrain from selling any of the globs of Ectoplasms you acquire on the trading post, you'll end up with far more than you'd expect. My best recommendation would be to play the game as you would, salvage the gear you find and don't sell the Ectos. This might seem like laughable advice now, but check back in a month and see how many Ectos you managed to save up, and then you'll know whether you need to adapt your strategy or not. If you need me to make a guide on salvaging unidentified gear, let me know in the comments down below. And then we get to the final material sink. We need 2 gifts of fangs, bones, claws, scales, venom and dust, as well as a single gift of blood and totems per piece of the first set. You're probably sick of hearing this by now, but all the gifts we need 2 of is to unlock the Astral Ward armor the first time around. You won't need those for the second and third sets. Now each of these gifts will require 100 tier 6 materials, 250 tier 5 materials and 50 of tier 3 and tier 4 materials. These are the gifts that originally deterred me from making any legendaries a couple of years ago, because to me this seemed like an insurmountable mountain. But I want to break this down into 3 simple tasks. Our last resort will be to buy these from the trading post after farming gold through other methods. People who are used to making legendaries will prefer this way, but if you've never made one before, this advice probably doesn't offer you any value right now. Instead, I want to give you 3 other options. The first is to do any activity that will reward you with unbound or volatile magic. For this you can go to the living world maps and do events, metas, or even gather the nodes. The resources from these nodes can be converted to unstable or volatile magic as well, and you'll be swimming in bloodstone dust, imperial fragments and dragonite ore for the lesser vision crystals. Alternatively, if you own the Iceroot Saga, I would highly recommend you to do a full tour of the Bjorn marches every day. You can install an add-on called Blish HUD, enable the pathing module and download Tekit's route. This will literally draw arrows on your screen you simply need to follow to the chests and the nodes. Both Blish HUD and these routes fall well within the ArenaNet terms of service by the way. They use an official API and work as an overlay that is drawn instead of interfering with the game. I'll add a link to Blish HUD in the pinned comment as well. Their website is downright amazing for any questions you might have. Once you've done Bjorn marches, you can trade the Eternal Eye Shards for Living World Season 4 resources in Eye of the North. Now the reason why I told you to gather these 2 specific types of magic is to trade in the unbound magic in Ember Bay for magic warp bundles, and make sure to only buy the specific ones from Ember Bay as these offer the best value. Opening them will reward you with different materials as well as a rare chance at Mystic Clovers. The volatile magic can be spent in any of the Living World Season 4 maps or in Eye of the North on trophy shipments, which will reward you with almost all of the materials you will need. Now here's some crucial advice you want to actually follow if you're dead set on making your legendary armor. Do not sell any of the materials you'll actually need, only sell the excess. Between now and when the legendary armor becomes available, it will be very tempting to sell some of the materials for extra gold. But know that each item sold on the trading post will incur a 15% tax. So unless you have an absolute need for the gold at that very moment, make sure you're not wasting 15% on taxes that might come back to bite you later. And I promised you one more method, but that involves a bit of a video series. See, I already made a video on how to farm tier 5 and 6 venom as well as claws. I'm currently working on a series for every single one of these materials for tiers 3, 4, 5 and 6. This will take quite some time though. The result of these videos might be that it's not worth to go this route at all, especially if you have other avenues. But that way you can actually know for sure how much you can expect if you want to farm yourself. And who knows, maybe you like farming like that. I know I do, if not, I wouldn't be making those videos. Now, before I close this video, I actually want to summarize every single thing I mentioned into 3 simple points. Simply play the game, do the new metas, and a lot of the items you need will take care of themselves. By simply farming the metas and the different tiers of rifts, you will be amassing way more salvageable items than you might first realize, which will mostly take care of a lot of the latter items I mentioned as well. And the third tip is to not buy anything you don't explicitly need on the trading posts. You have more than enough time right now by engaging in open world content to get most of the things for your very first set of armor. If you have any other comments or questions, leave them down below and make sure to like and subscribe.